Hey, welcome to the explainer. Every great idea starts with a plan, right? A perfect, beautiful blueprint. But what happens when that blueprint smacks right into the real world? Today, we're diving into that gap between the architect's dream and the builder's reality and figuring out how to master the one thing that lives in between: change. Let's get to it. I'm sure you've heard this a million times, maybe from a professor or a boss you had. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And look, it sounds right, doesn't it? It feels like one of those fundamental truths. A solid plan is supposed to be your map to success, the thing that guarantees you get where you're going. But what if it's not that simple? Here's a wild thought. What happens when that perfect, logical, airtight plan is the very thing that causes the project to fail? What if the plan itself is what creates all the friction and resistance that brings everything to a grinding halt? Yeah, that's the puzzle we're going to tackle today. Okay, so let's start with the plan itself, the master blueprint. Think about it. No one just starts throwing up walls to build a skyscraper. It all begins with an architect and a detailed design, mapping out every single thing from the foundation all the way to the roof. Well, in the world of business, that blueprint, that's your plan. A lot of us think planning is just making a to-do list, but it's so much more than that. It's really a whole system. First, you have to define where you're even going. Those are your goals. Then you figure out the main highways you're going to take to get there. Those are your strategies. And finally, you have to coordinate all the little turns in day-to-day actions. That's coordinating all the work activities. So why do we even bother with all this? Well, because a good plan is like a superpower for a team. It gets everybody rowing in the same direction. It cuts through that fog of uncertainty that just kills performance. It stops people from wasting time and energy doing the same work twice. And, maybe most importantly, it gives you a way to keep score. I mean, without a plan, how do you even know if you're winning? Of course, not all plans are the same, not even close. You've got your big, sweeping, strategic plan. That's like deciding we're going to build a skyscraper. It's the huge, long-term vision. But then you have the nitty-gritty operational plans. That's deciding where the outlets go on the 17th floor. You need both, but they're playing two completely different games. So you have this perfect blueprint. It's logical, it's efficient, it's brilliant. But a blueprint is not a building. Now comes the messy part, the actual construction. And this is where the architect's clean, perfect lines meet the builder's muddy, complicated reality. And here it is. The simple, unavoidable truth. No matter how amazing your plan is, it demands one thing: that something, somewhere, is going to be different tomorrow than it was today. And the word we have for that difference is change. And let's be clear, organizational change isn't some abstract concept. It's real. It's your desk moving to a new floor. It's learning a whole new software system that you hate. It's your boss getting replaced or your team getting a totally new set of responsibilities. It is anything that messes with the way you normally get your work done. So when change shows up, what's our first, most human reaction? To push back. It's so easy to just label people as difficult or resistant when they do this. But it's way smarter to get curious. We gotta dig in and understand the psychology of it all. The real why that's hiding behind the no. So why do we do it? Well, for one, change yanks away our comfortable certainty and replaces it with stressful ambiguity. We're creatures of habit, and building new habits is work. We also get scared about what we might lose: our status, our comfort, maybe even our job. And sometimes, it's not selfish at all. Sometimes we fight back because we genuinely believe the new plan is a terrible idea for everyone. Okay, so if we know resistance is coming, what do? Do we just brace for impact? No way. The good news is there's a proven toolkit of strategies that we can use to help guide a team from that initial heck no all the way to, okay, let's do this. Think of this like a step-by-step guide, and you're supposed to use it in order. You always start at the top with the gentlest approach: education and communication. Just explain the why. If that doesn't work, you bring people in, you give them a seat at the table. That's participation. Still hitting a wall? Offer facilitation and support, training, a shoulder to lean on. After that, maybe you need to negotiate. And only when everything else has failed, do you even think about coercion. You want to live at the top of this list, not the bottom. Let's just zoom in on that participation idea for a second, because it's a game changer. The old school way of setting goals was always top-down. The bosses decide, and the orders flow down the chain. But there's a much better way called MBO, management by objectives. This is where managers and their employees actually set the goals together. That one little shift from dictating to collaborating creates this incredible sense of ownership. It basically dissolves resistance before it even has a chance to form. All right, so this brings us to the big idea, the thing that ties it all together. How do we bake the builder's reality into the architect's vision right from the very beginning? Well, the answer is to stop making static blueprints and start creating a living blueprint. We used to think that a good plan was one that was carved into a giant slab of granite. But in the world we live in today, that kind of rigidity is a death sentence. The best plans now do two things at once. They are specific enough to actually give you direction, but they're also flexible enough to bend when reality, inevitably throws a punch. This quote right here, this nails the modern mindset. Planning isn't a thing you do once a year, print out and stick in a binder. It's a loop. It's a constant cycle of planning, acting on the plan, seeing what happens, and then adjusting the plan. You have to treat planning as a verb, not a noun. You're not just setting the course, you are actively steering the ship minute by minute. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Take a look at the plans in your own work, in your own life, and ask yourself this. Is it a rigid paper map that becomes totally useless the second you hit a roadblock? Or is it more like an adaptive GPS, one that knows the destination, sure, but is constantly recalculating the best route based on live traffic? Because that, right there, is the difference between planning for failure and truly planning for success in the real world.